Hey, what's up, all you gig economists out there? Jetta976 here. I gotta come up with a more clever name for myself than that. Anyway, I've been doing Uber and Lyft part time for about a year and a half, although I've been doing Uber, Lyft, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Amazon Flex, and up until recently, Postmates. All that stuff I've been doing full time for the last 3 months. So I've been a professional gig economist. It's been pretty fun. It's nice to be able to just work whenever you want and be your own boss and all that. But I am done with Postmates. Of all those platforms, Postmates has been the worst for me, and I'm gonna tell you why in this video. So let's get to ranting and raving. All right. So reason number one. First of all, I hardly ever get any orders with Postmates, so it's not exactly like they're giving me a lot of an incentive to stick with them. In the 3 months that I've worked with them, I've done a grand total of 15 deliveries. Compare that to over 120 with DoorDash and probably 50 to 70 with Uber Eats. I didn't keep Reason number two, when I do get Postmates orders, more often than not, the restaurant tends to be really, really far away from me. Now, when I'm in downtown Orlando or near the tourist attraction areas, it isn't so bad. But up here in Sanford, I'll get orders from restaurants that are like 5 or 10 miles away from me, which doesn't sound like a lot, but just remember, you don't get paid to drive to the restaurant. It's only once you get there that you're on the clock. In fact, here's a screenshot of an order that came in for a KFC in Lake Mary. I was about 4.5 miles away at the time, and I know that road. It's a Lake Mary Boulevard. I know that road really well. It's a high traffic area pretty much all times of the day. So where I was to that KFC would have been a 10 to 15 minute drive, plus the time I would have had to wait in line to order the food, plus the time and mileage it would take to get to the customer. So that would have been at least a half-hour round trip, and most likely I probably would have only made $4 or $5 that order, maybe six with tip, which we'll get to in a minute. Reason number three, Postmates has sent me to non-existent stores multiple times. In fact, here's a screenshot for an order that came in for a Chick-fil-A, also on West Lake Mary Boulevard, actually not too far from that KFC. But that particular Chick-fil-A was actually torn down at the time. And the next closest Chick-fil-A is about 5.5 miles away from me, from where I was at the time. And yet, here's another example. So they tried to send me to a Starbucks, but the address they sent me to was a Publix, which is a supermarket chain here in Florida. So I went inside the Publix thinking maybe they have a little Starbucks inside, I've seen, Starbucks inside Target and Walmart and Barnes and Noble and stuff like that. I figured that's what it was. So I go inside the Publix, walk around the whole store. There's no Starbucks in there. And it's in a shopping plaza. So, I walked around the shopping plaza looking for the Starbucks. I mean, asked somebody, like, where's the Starbucks? And somebody was like, I think there's one like a mile down the road. So I looked it up on Waze, and sure enough, it was a half mile down the road. But the address that Postmates gave me was the address for where I was at, which was the Publix. So I just went for where the GPS told me to go. And at this point, I had already been walking around, just being completely idle for over 8 minutes. So I just canceled the order. I don't even know why this order even shows up on my delivery history since I canceled it. There's a bunch of other orders I canceled that aren't in here, which brings me to reason number four. If you have a problem, there's no way to get help. With DoorDash and Uber Eats and Amazon, if you have to cancel an order, if you have some kind of problem, like a non-existent restaurant, for example, you can actually call or chat with support personnel. Or if you just need to cancel an order you've already accepted, like you got a better offer on another platform, or you just can't do it for whatever reason, it'll give you a long list of reasons to pick from. With Postmates, it's just cancel order. You don't even get to try to explain why you can't do it. Reason number five, check this out. So this is the so-called hot bag that they give you, but it's not even insulated. This is just a tote bag. Look at this. And by comparison, here's the DoorDash bag. Look, it's exactly the same, except you can see the silver lining inside. This is actually insulated and keeps the food hot. In fact, it keeps it really hot. I'm surprised. So why don't they give us insulated delivery bags? They're just setting us and themselves up for failure because we're not actually delivering the food warm. I wonder how many customers have gotten cold food, even if the driver pulled right up and picked the food up right as it was coming out of the oven or wherever and delivered it as quickly and fresh as possible, and the food was still cold. I bet you that happened a lot. Reason number six, you spend a ridiculous amount of time waiting for orders to be ready. Now, with Uber Eats and Amazon Flex, every restaurant is partnered, which means that when the customer, puts the order in on their phone or their website, it goes straight to that restaurant, and the restaurant gets the order and they start making the food. And with those two companies, all you have to do is walk in, tell them you're with Uber or Amazon, and you give them the order number, the name or whatever, and usually the food is ready to go. Maybe you have to wait like a minute or so, and they give you the food. You don't have to pay nothing. You just grab the food, walk out. 30, 60 seconds tops usually, unless it's McDonald's, but that's a difference. But with Postmates, almost none of the restaurants are partnered. Some are, but they are actually in the minority. So you usually have to order everything for everybody. It's just all I fly, you buy, or, you fly, I buy, whatever. Which means even if it's a place like, and this has happened to me, like Applebee's or a local Chinese food place, you have to wait in line, place the order, and then sit around for, it could be anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes or more, waiting for the food to be made. And you only get paid 9 cents a minute to wait. I don't know about you, but my time is worth a lot more than 9 cents a minute. And it wouldn't be so bad if it was just fast food that was like this, but a lot of the orders are for slow table service restaurants. In fact, I've got burned by this twice within 3 days of each other here in Orlando. So on November 16th, I got an order for a Chinese restaurant in downtown Orlando, Empire Szechuan. They're not partnered with Postmates, so I had to walk in, wait behind a long line of people, and then place the order, and then I had to wait another, 10 to 15 minutes for them to actually make the food. And you can see on the order details that my wait time was over 21 minutes. That's absurd. And the customer was only 2 miles away, so I hardly made any money on the mileage on that trip. And they didn't even tip, stingy bastards. And a few days after that, I got an order for what I thought was a Chipotle or Qdoba type place, but it was a traditional table service Mexican restaurant, La Fogata, which means the fire. I just looked that up. And it was a huge order, over $40 in food. It was for an office. When I placed the order, they told me it was going to take at least a half hour because it was so much food. Fortunately, I was able to kill that time by doing an Uber Eats order while I was waiting. Like, it was in a big shopping plaza, and there was like a Subway right next door to them. And it was funny because I got turned on Uber Eats, got an order for Subway right there. I walked in the Subway, and I was there for 60 seconds. Drove like 2 miles to deliver it, came back, and then the Mexican restaurant food was ready to go. But by the time I got back, and it was probably about 45 minutes since I had originally gotten the order, which means it was, probably 45 minutes since the person placed the order, and I haven't even left to go deliver it yet. And it was about 3.5 miles to deliver it, which isn't a long distance, but it's, it took quite a while just because of the city traffic and everything. And that was on November 19th, and they didn't tip me until yesterday, which was December 3rd. 2 weeks later, you can see that $5.90 tip is waiting for me to cash out. By the way, that's something I only notice happening with Postmates. People wait days or even weeks to leave a tip, or maybe Postmates is holding back our tips for some reason. I'm not sure, but it definitely seems fishy that they're so delayed with them. With DoorDash, it's included as soon as your order comes in, and with Uber Eats and Amazon, most people tip like immediately after the delivery. So at the time, I only made $5.52 on an hour-long order. Now that I technically made $11.42, I guess it sort of was worth it, but making that much money on a Postmates order is really rare, which brings me to my last and biggest complaint. Reason number 7, you hardly make any money doing this. $4 is the minimum you can make doing an order in the Orlando area. It might be higher in other cities, but even for Orlando, $4 is a joke. With DoorDash, the minimum is $6. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but that's literally 50% more. And over time, that extra money adds up, as I'll show you with this data. So I went through all 15 of my Postmates orders, and this is how they break down. So in 3 months, I did 15 deliveries. And the average fare, like how much I made after both the delivery plus tip, was $6.28 per order, which it sounds like a lot, but it isn't compared to DoorDash, which we'll get to in a minute. The average wait time was about 6.5 minutes, which again doesn't sound like a lot, but 6.5 minutes of just waiting around feels like an eternity compared to the 30 to 60 seconds it takes to walk in and out with Uber Eats, Amazon, and most DoorDash orders. And here's a breakdown of how much I made per order. So, 4 to 4.99, 2, which was 13% of all the orders, 5 to 5.99, 6, 40%, 6 to 6.99, 5, which is 33%, and $7 or more, 2 orders, again, 13%. So if you break that down, you realize about half the time I made less than what the minimum order would have been with DoorDash, because, with DoorDash, it's 6, and you can see 53% of the time I was making less than $6. By means of comparison, let's break down DoorDash real quick. So I've done 123 deliveries in 3 months. 19 of those were for the $6 bare minimum, which is 15%, which is quite a lot. But consider that 85% of the orders were for more than the bare minimum, which is, and again, the bare minimum with DoorDash is more than what you usually make with Postmates anyway. The average fare is about $7.86 per delivery. Again, 25% more than Postmates. Now, maybe it isn't fair to compare a sample size of 15 to a sample size of 123, but that's all I have to go on. Pretty much the only reason I ever did Postmates orders was because I was free at the time. If I had gotten a Lyft, Uber, Amazon, or DoorDash order, I would usually cancel the Postmates order and do one of those instead, because they'd usually be shorter distance, or I could just tell they were going to be more lucrative. So if you're thinking about becoming a Postmates driver, I'd say you might want to reconsider. Maybe if you live in a market with a higher minimum guarantee in a metropolitan area, so there's, everything's really close together, there's lots of people, constant orders, and the restaurants and the customers are close distance to each other. Like, I mean like big cities like New York, Chicago, LA, places like that. Then it might be worth it to work for Postmates, especially if you can do it on a bike and you don't have to, you can save money on your car. But if you live in a sprawling suburban area like I do, chances are you're going to get orders that are for, just way far away, and you're just going to waste a lot of time and gas to barely make a profit. But, if you've had a better experience with Postmates than I have, let me know in the comments. Also, if your market's minimum is a lot higher than $4, I'd love to know that too. If you're a Postmates customer and you've had really slow or bad service or both, the reasons I just listed probably has something to do with that. I'll do a whole separate video where we talk about how we can make Postmates better. So I hope the people from Postmates are watching. But, thanks for watching, and check out some of my other videos about working the gig economy life. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks. Bye.